This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, hello there, it's Jeff Cutter. Everyone, welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, June the 4th, 1989, one of the biggest comebacks in Major League Baseball happened. It was a crazy sort of event for the Toronto Blue Jays in June of 1989 when they took on the Boston Red Sox. These two teams would be fighting tooth and nail for the 1988 AL East championship. But basically, Boston and Toronto were basically the team of the 80s in the AL East. Boston in 1986 getting to the World Series and losing thanks to Buckner's gaff. Boston had some good players. They still had Jim Rice. They still had Mike Greenwell. They still had Dwight Evans. They still had Wade Boggs and Roger Clemens. They had a good nucleus. Toronto in the 80s came from laughingstock to world beaters, if you will. By 1985, when the Jays blew that LCS to the Royals, they were for real. They made America sit up and notice. So the Blue Jays were good. But in 1989, they started off pathetic. 12-24 of .333 winning percentage, aka they win 1 out of every 3 games. They fired Jimmy Williams, and they bring in Cedar Gaston, who was supposed to be an intern. But once Gaston took over the reins, he basically was doing a lot of good things for the organization and all that. So, the Blue Jays were starting to get a little bit better. They closed out Exhibition Stadium a couple weeks prior by beating the White Sox, the team that played them in the first game of the stadium's existence in 1977. But here's the thing. The Blue Jays were in Boston, and for some strange reason, they always play well in Boston at Fenway Park. That 3-game weekend series was famous not just for this comeback on a Sunday, but the day prior as Junior Felix hit a grand slam inside the Parker. Fenway Park center field is cavernous after all. Junior Felix was hot. So the Blue Jays knew that they were in for it. As, they looked pretty smart and all that. Blue Jays headed to this game were 22-31, 9 games below 500. The Red Sox were not doing that badly either. Well, they were 24-26, so not too good. So the Blue Jays needed something, and so did the Red Sox. A 1 o'clock start time was huge. 33,000 fans at Fenway Park. Well, obviously, Fenway Park held that many fans. So in a 4.5-hour game, the Blue Jays looked big and all that. The Blue Jays starting lineup was huge. Junior Felix, the guy who basically ran roughshod at Fenway Park in that series. Tony Fernandez, great shortstop. Kelly Gruber, a good third baseman. George Bell, who basically kind of was a malcontent, but he was good at the plate. Fred Mcgriff at first base. People forget that the Jays had Fred Mcgriff. Of course, we traded him to San Diego in 91 to get Alomar. Lloyd Mosby in center, still playing well, despite the fact that Jesse Barfield went to the Yankees in an in-season trade for Al Leiter. Ernie Whitt at catcher, who was a former Red Sox farmhand. Rance Molinex was the DH. So everyone knows about his platoon with Garth Orge at third base in the 85 season, and Nelson Lariano, who was a decent second baseman. The Red Sox starting lineup was Jody Reed at short, Ed Romero at second, Wade Boggs at third, Mike Greenwell in left, Dwight Evans in right, Ellis Burks in center, Carlos Quintana at DH, Nick Escassi at first base, and Rich Goodman behind the plate. On the mound, the Blue Jays sent Alex Sanchez, a starter who really wasn't that good, if you ask me. He only pitched in 4 games for the 1989 Blue Jays, and that was all his major league thing. He was 0-1 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 if it wasn't for the 1989 Blue Jays. He was 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been 0-2 with a 10 ERA. He would have been the fact that, you know, the team saved them. Sanchez is basically more famous for being involved in the trade in 1990, in September 1990, that the Blue Jays went took Bud Black to help with the pennant drive. So anyway, Alex Sanchez would start. Mike Smithson, a very decent Red Sox pitcher, would be up next. His career wasn't that bad. He did well for the Twins, but then injuries just plagued him. He was part of the '87 team that won the World Series. I don't know if he got a ring, but anyway, this would be his final season as a pitcher. He was 7-14. Not too good, don't you think? So anyway, the game was underway. The Blue Jays were down 5-0 after one inning, thanks to a Mike Greenwood, RBI single, a Dwight Evans RBI single, and Ellis Burks knocking a 3-run shot off of Sanchez. Toronto decided to change their luck and replace Sanchez with Xavier Hernandez, who has a weird name and all that. Boston scored 1 run on a sac fly in the second inning, an RBI ground out in the third inning, an RBI single in the fourth inning to make it 8-0, and then Evans and Burks got RBIs. So it's 10-0 to the sixth, to the top of the seventh. They decided to make a couple of moves. Danny Heath, the infamous Danny Heath, would play left field, replacing Mike Greenwell, and Randy Kutcher would play right field instead of Dwight Evans. So after a few things happened, after a few walks, Smithson, for some strange reason, he was pitching a shutout, a 10-0 lead, but after a pair of walks, he gets replaced by Bob Stanley. But the Blue Jays do get some runs. Nelson Lariano got into a double play, but thankfully a run scored. And then Junior Felix hit a ground rule double to score Ernie Witt. Make it 10-2. No big deal. But then the Blue Jays came out swinging in the 8th inning. Lloyd Mosby with a 2 RBI single off of Stanley to score Bell and Mcgriff. Then Molnix hit an RBI double to score Mosby. Then they went with Rob Murphy from the bullpen for Boston. Nelson Lariano got an RBI single, 10-6. The Blue Jays decided to use Tom Hankey, despite the fact that he was basically their closer, to replace Hernandez, who pitched 6 1/3 innings of decent ball. Red Sox went down quickly, and then the Blue Jays on top of the ninth. After a hit by Tony Fernandez, Boston decided to go to the bullpen and get Lee Smith up to save the game. Gruber walks, then George Bell hits an RBI double to score Fernandez. Gruber goes to third. Smith does get McGriff swinging, but walks Mosby. So basically, that loads the bases. And Ernie Witt on a 2-1 pitch somehow hit a fly ball deep to right field that just hooked around the pole. And the Blue Jays were up 11-10. They come back from 10-0 down to Witt to take the lead. Gruber scores, Bell scores, Mosby scores ahead of Witt. Dennis Lamp comes in, the former Blue Jay, for Lee Smith, and then a lot of things happen. Now, despite all that, people thought Blue Jays came back to win that game right off 10-0 to make 11-10 to win. However, the Blue Jays gave up a run as Jody Reed got an RBI single to tie the game. But Tom Hankey does get out of the situation. In the top of the 10th, the Jays go down swinging. The Blue Jays are lucky as Boston doesn't do anything themselves, even though that Randy Kutcher was on third base, but Escassi struck out. Top of the 11th, nothing for the Blue Jays. And nothing for the Red Sox either. On to the 12th. Dennis Lamp still pitching. He gives up he gives up a single to Tom Wallace. And then Nelson Lariano sacrifices Lawless to second. That brought Junior Felix up, and again he ripped the Red Sox into pieces with a home run to center field. Makes it 13-11. Dwayne Ward gets Boggs, Horn, and Kutcher in order to win the game. And the Blue Jays somehow, in some way, win 13-11. That would actually be a massive catalyst for the Jays doing well in the 89 season to win the AL East. The Red Sox went through a bad period. They did win the 1990 AL East on the final day of the year. But anyhow, that was huge. Ironically, the next day, the Blue Jays had to fly back home to play in their new park, Sky Dome, against the Milwaukee Brewers. And people in Toronto won't forget the gala that day. As basically, when they opened up the Sky Dome, to basically show off like the retractable roof part, because the first part of the gala basically had been to a closed roof. It started raining on the participants, so basically that wasn't good. But anyway, yeah, the Blue Jays used this big comeback in '89 as a catalyst to win the AL East. Can't beat that. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.